Howdy. What is the role of a producer? The role of a producer, technically, is to deliver the final product to the person paying the bill, or the entity paying the bill when it comes to recording music. It is the producer's job and assignment to deliver, be it the song or the album, to a record company, a client, whoever. It is his, her, or their job to deliver the final product to the paying entity. Who is the boss of the entire operation? The person or the thing or entity that is the boss is the one paying the bill, even beyond a producer. A producer maintains the budget, hires session musicians, books a recording studio, and then at the end of the day, or night, or week, or month, delivers that final product, the copy, the printed copy, to whoever's paying the bill. That is the kind of the old school and technically the definition of what a producer's job is. Now, what does a producer do while in the studio? Maybe help write songs. He might get together with a client or a band member or songwriters and help them create the songs. That is known as pre-production, the writing process. He might get together and help the band rehearse the songs. He or she, or they, or WTF ever you want to call it, they would actually go ahead and book the studio. They would go ahead and book the studio. They would hire session musicians. They would maintain the budget. And a lot of times in the studio, they would coach or know when a specific take for an artist is achieved to go ahead and move on to the next phase. Technically, they are the boss in the studio itself. Within the studio, they are the boss. However, they are not the boss overall. Who's the boss? The boss overall is the person paying the bill. If a producer comes to a record company or some other place and says, here's the final product, and the record company says, no way, isn't good enough, it can happen, and it has happened. So the record company in that instance would actually be the one that is the boss. But within the studio itself, the producer's in charge. Okay, he knows when a take has been got or not got, or is a keeper, and then moves on to the next. That's generally his job. Now, producers in today's day and age have a ton of different roles, or can be a variety of different types of producers. Some help produce beats and make the beat, or incorporate their little bits to making a beat. Hence, they are considered a producer on the project or product. Some producers are simply there overseeing, and they generally let the engineer kind of take over and take the reins and determine what's good or what isn't. Some are very technical. They know about the board. They know about the preamps. They know about what types of compressors or time-based effects to add while in the recording process. Some know all the ins and outs of the studio gear and equipment. Many do not. Many are musicians themselves, which know what and help an artist work on the bridge of a song, or work on, a part of a song to make it better. Usually that's done in pre-production. It's not really done in the studio phase. Now, a lot of people, there's the bedroom studios where someone comes in and helps write something or incorporate it. They're a producer on the project. So a producer has a variety there is a variety of different types of producers today. Some know everything technically about all the gear. Some don't. Some know a little. Most know the different types of microphones they want to use. Most producers at least know that much from a technological or from a gear standpoint. Okay? Some don't. Some are purely musicians. And then they help, and they get an engineer to do all the to work the board or man the Pro Tools rig or the DAW, digital audio workstation. Some know a little, some know a lot, some know nothing. So a producer has a variety of roles today. Cannot. And there is a variety of different types of producers. But the producer's job, the producer, is to deliver the final result to whoever's paying the bill. They usually book the studio or hire the engineers, get the session musicians, and more often than not, actually work with the artist on writing the songs. When? In pre-production. In the hip-hop world, a lot of times the producers help make the beats or write the beats. They are a, quote, producer on the project. Producers not to be confused with an A&R person, an artist and repertoire. Their job is generally to scout the talent. To scout talent and bring the talent on to a record company or something like that, and to connect them with the record company. That's an A&R's job. Now they're getting more and more involved on the creative process, though, which used to be just strictly the producer's role. Now the A&R person actually a lot of times checks in and has a say on what creatively. Where before their primary role, the A&R person, was just to connect or scout talent and hook and get the artist, help the artist get signed with a label. Well, now labels aren't, they don't have they have pull and push, but they're not the only act in town anymore. I mean, you've got social media where people explode on TikTok and things like that, and they can create their own career by themselves or go with a smaller label or create their own, like a lot do in the hip-hop industry. So the record label used to be the only game in town. You had to go through them. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. That is not necessary anymore. It can be a good thing. I mean, they've got money pool and everything like that, but it's not needed anymore. So at the end of the day, you must realize the producer's job is to deliver the final product to whoever's paying the bill. And they're in charge of the session, technically. They're in charge when it comes to the rock, country, pop scenario. And they're in charge of the session. They're in charge of say what's a keeper in the studio and what's not. They book the studio. They pick the engineers that they want. They're in the studio saying that's a take, or that's a keeper, that takes a keeper, that isn't. And then they actually deliver the final product. They do the scheduling. All that. Now, that is in the standard rock, pop, country. In the hip-hop world, or rap, a lot of times a producer is just someone who worked on the beat or worked on the song or had a hand in the writing process. And again, some know in the hip-hop world and in other genres, the producer knows some, a little, a lot, or nothing about the gear being used. So it all depends on what type of producers. There's many different types. But the producer's primary role is to deliver that final product to whoever's paying the bill. And remember, whoever's paying the bill is the top boss. The producer might be the boss in the studio and technically in charge, but at the end of the day, the person paying the bill, the organization or the client that hired the producer, is the one that's the top boss. If the producer takes them something and that paying entity or paying person or client says, we don't like it, or I don't like it, isn't good enough, a lot of times the producer has to go back in and rework things, change it, write new material with the artist. So, in essence, a producer's job is to deliver the final product. The producer is in charge during the recording process. He's the one in charge calling the shots. He's the one booking things and booking the session musicians and picking the session musicians. He or she or they is, the one saying that's a keep, that's a take, that's not. Or I want to steer the music more into a pop direction. Or I want the music to be more of a rock and roll. Or I might want to add a little bit of hip hop influence or a certain beat to this. That's the producer's job, to steer, guide the artist, and help the artist get the result the artist wants, and especially the paying entity. But there is no one single type of producer these days. There are many different types that conduct the way they work with artists in many different ways. But a producer's job is to deliver the final result, the product, to the paying entity. Who's the boss? The paying entity. See you next time.